lost from my chat, actually.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to find. You have to pay careful attention to the sign outside the door.
I was just, some reason I thought it was on the other side of the plastic. I know. Not before my time.
Yeah. Send me the. Oh, there. Good enough.
Really? Two kind of. Two half volunteers.
And what did you do?
I don't know.
What's the magic?
This is, I don't think I've ever had this success rate. I haven't even invented this thing.
I like that. That's great.
So Bernie kind of, well, he said that.
It's just fellowship.
He seems interested. He said the only thing I'm going to be in this place.
So
With
totally,
you
yeah.
and your boss being married. Fun.
Oh yeah, yeah. Was he in the room? Okay, but
So this room has static electricity in it. So anytime you walk over the floor and then touch the mic, shit happens. What the? Some my computer was talking back to me. Anyway, this is the Media Man meeting. I think it's about time to get started. And yeah, let's just go. First of all, note well, the note well applies. Note well. Note really well. If you behave like an ass, you're supposed to be called out on it. And if you see others behaving like an ass, you have someone to talk to. That's my short version of that slide.
Can I quote you?
Yep. Meeting tips. If you haven't signed into MeetEcho, you're not here, whether you're here or not. So please do. And they use it to size the meeting room. So if we get a lot smaller meeting room than this, then well, we might have problems fitting all the people into the broom closet. So resources, you've seen those. Bumblefuge entered the queue, whatever that means. And that's a nice thing when you don't have policing on usernames. So, first point on the agenda. Note well, Scribe. Oh, Scribe. Do we have a volunteer for Scribe? Everyone looks embarrassed.
I can do it. I'll do it.
Thank you.
Came at exactly the right time.
Are you standing right outside waiting?
Yes, not at all.
Does anyone wish to bash the agenda? One, going two. Let's go. So, status of working group documents. We have sent 2 documents to the ISG. Top level and haptics. One got approved. Hooray! And the other one had discuss issues, which are the next topic of the agenda. We have a revised version of suffixes, and Manu is attending remotely and will give a short presentation of the current changes and the current state. I hope we can be done with that one. We adopted Mark Nottingham standard trees, and we have an agreement from last time that we should, once we're done with specifying all the little changes we want to make, we should do a BIS document of the registration procedures, which is not started. So, any comments on that? Seeing none, let's get to work. Top level discuss items. I found 5 issues worthy of filing from the ISG discussion. And this slide actually links to the issues. So if anyone wishes to follow the links, go ahead. And we'll go through them one by one. So this one I should have caught, because IANA is not in the business of making decisions, and they're very, very strict on not making decisions, including if you tell them to set up a registry, they will want to know exactly what's in it. So Alexei actually managed to get the new version published of the draft yesterday evening, which was a surprise to a lot of people. I mean, it was supposed to happen only on Monday morning. So people could have read it instead of sleeping. And anyway, he's got a table. And so I think this particular piece is solved. Comments on that? No comments? Yeah.
Does this include haptics or not?
No.
It will add itself.
Okay.
to the
Yep.
list.
Yep. So I got a worry about rules that don't look like rules. Like they're more like considerations or things you should carefully consider. Well, I think the rules look like rules, but some of them aren't, some of them aren't. And my proposed resolution is that we should copy the concrete rules that say you don't get to the registry unless you've done this into the IANA consideration section, and perhaps change the top level title of the section 2 to considerations, which wasn't done in the 04 draft, but we can discuss this further on the list. So comments?
So an IANA consideration section and a consideration section?
So IANA considerations in the IANA consideration section.
That's what I don't understand. Yeah, consider it
This referred to section 2, not to section 5.
Media type consideration. Top level media type consideration.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I think this is, we should look carefully at what our editor has proposed and see what we can make out of that. And I will remind the area director that even area directors are supposed to say their main name when they come to the mic. It's nice to make an example out of the higher ups instead of the newcomers. And his name is Murray. So seems we're okay with this. We'll see if it's done or not. Lars Eggert had NIST. There were a lot of them. Again, it proves that neither the chair nor the reviewers were careful enough in reviewing. I mean, leaving in a sentence like this needs further consideration before, when sending it to the ISG. No, you're not supposed to do that. So, it's mostly editorial. So if there's things that need considering there, where the fixes are not obvious, then we should take them to new issues. Murray.
This is Murray. I mean, I also missed that, so some of mea culpa. But most of Lars's things are also flagged as you don't actually have to do. I don't care what you do with these; they're just suggestions. So like, don't spend huge amount of time on them.
Yeah, good points. There were comments, not discusses. Number 11 was this top level and registration trees, which I had real trouble parsing the discuss, because the discuss seems to be saying that what's on the left hand, the rules for the left hand side of the slash should say something about what's on the right hand side of the slash, and that's now not how MIME types are structured. So my suggestion for this one was let's make some more clarifications about what we're talking about and return to ISG for repeated reading. And Murray, if you want to comment on that one. We have had no response from the relevant AD about on responses to his discuss. So I don't know what he will be thinking about it.
No, if you need me to get him prod that person to review the new version after this, I can do that.
Yeah, we'll if you can just review when we send it back to the ISG, I think that's okay.
Do you want me to? I can't remember. Do you want me to start that conversation now, or do you want me to wait for another revision? Either way is fine.
I think we'll wait
Okay, I'll wait.
and at least until I've studied the new version in detail. I haven't even gotten to the diff yet. So we also got pointed out that we did not reference the IANA registration policy from 81-26. This document is the descendant of the most cited RFC in all RFCs. There are more references to the IANA registration policy than to any other RFC I found. Anyway, so the easy fix here is that we should just say that this is standards action, and quote number and section of that RFC. So this is addressed in the updated version. I think it's painfully obvious what we should have done in the first place. So that's the end of the list of items I picked up from the ISG ballot. So so this is your last chance of making comments on this in the meeting, because otherwise we'll just say we'll read carefully the diff for 03 and declare closed what's fixed and work further on those that are not. I see thumbs up. Let's go for it. And the next thing to do is multiple suffixes. Manu, are you there?
Yes, I am. You can. Do you mind just driving the slide deck?
I can project the slide deck. Just
Thank
a moment.
you. All right.
Nice robot.
Brought to us by artificial intelligence. All right, next slide, please. This is the suffixes draft. I was finally able to publish a -06 version yesterday. There's a diff mark copy there. but the diffs have been available for at least a week on the new version. I'm going to summarize the changes since the last time. So, Harold, you had asked us to update the suffix registration template. That has been done now, and it's included in the draft. The major change here is to not allow freeform text in the registry. And people have, over the years, just copy and pasted this freeform text over and over and over again. In some cases, in other cases, they haven't. The update has basically been to require links to specifications instead. I did an audit of the entire registry, and I believe that there are links to specifications for each one of those columns. So that's update suffix registration template. It's in there. The other thing that was requested by Amanda was that that we update the IANA considerations from expert review to specification required. We have been operating for the last decade as if it's specification required when the registry said expert review. So we are instructing IANA to fix that bug in the registry through the IANA considerations section. Graham also requested that we don't say we're going to remove that section. We're just going to leave it in there. So that's update the IANA consideration section. This third one was requested by Daryl and a number of other people, where you require that the change controller has to consent for base. The change controller for the base subtypes consents whenever somebody uses a structured suffix to modify the base subtype in some way. These slides are old, Harold. Sorry, I don't know what happened, but
Me neither. I mean,
yeah,
I uploaded a new version, but it somehow didn't take.
yeah. I can share. Well, ignore what's. Let's see.
Let me try again.
Okay.
Oh, that's
Go up. No, this is still.
no, it's still the old one. That's
Yeah.
strange.
Here, I'll try and share mine.
So I have to stop the slide share, and then I have to. Where's the button for giving your slides? Can you?
I've requested.
Yeah. Let me see if ground screen. Oh, there it is.
There we go. Accept and select. Where is? All right, this should be the updated one. The last one here is require the change controller to consent when a base subtype is involved. So if you have someone that has registered an application foo base subtype and you want to register application foo plus BAS or anything that uses that base subtype, the person registering has to get consent from the change controller for the base subtype and provide that to the designated expert when registering the new subtype. This is to ensure something that Mark Nottingham noted, which is you would want some form of alignment when registrations like that happen.
Jonathan Lennox, just I'm slightly confused. You said it's no longer expert review, but then you gave instructions to the expert.
Specification required includes expert review, doesn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
So specification required is strictly higher in the hierarchy of reviews.
Yes. It's public specification plus expert.
Okay.
I do wonder if because that's a fairly mechanical thing, checking that, if that's something that you could have IANA do rather than having the expert do it.
I think yes, I think that's a consideration. I think the reason it's written this way is because there may be nuances that the expert might need to weigh in on, and I mean, we could go either way. If IANA is like, no, it feels like IANA is not in a position to make a judgment call on the edge cases, whereas the expert might be, and that is why we want to depend on the expert. We want to reduce the amount of work that they do to almost nothing, except in those rare cases where they're like, wait a second, this smells funny. I don't know if that helped, Mark.
Yeah, I'm just kind of playing through in my head how it's going to work, and I can imagine. I've seen unfortunately instances where people bring something to a community and they say, look, these people are okay with it, and in fact that's not really what's been said. And so I'm wondering if maybe the expert needs to go and check themselves rather than having proof prevent, because what is proof?
It is in the spec, right? Well, actually, I don't know if the spec says this, but the expectation was you need to point to a public resource somewhere where the community is clearly consenting, and you need to provide that link to the expert reviewer so that they can go and read it and see if they agree.
Okay.
That's as, yeah.
That could work. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and the spec really should say that. Well, it's difficult to understand how prescriptive we need to be. I'm trying to provide some degree of leeway to the expert because that they should have that leeway. But we're really trying to make the expert's job easy, where it's like, here's the link where they say it's totally okay to use this, to extend the media type in this way. Any other questions on that before?
Yeah, I just Alexei Melnikov. I agree that IANA doesn't have technical enough expertise to double check this. So experts need to be in the loop. I think this came about from Daryl trying to minimize the amount of work we do in case like trying to read the base spec and figure out whether the new registration is related to it. Oh, here he is. However, playing slightly devil's advocate, I'm a bit worried about situation where, let's say there is I don't know, SGO registered something and then an independent group decided to do JSON version, or, XML version was registered and, we decided JSON version of it. And it is in the best community interest to register it. And then the holder of the original registration says no. Like this becomes a bit awkward. Do they get to veto it? That's kind of an interesting question.
It is. I think Mark had a good answer for that, which is if they create a conflict like that, these strings are cheap and the community will rat around them. Right. I mean, if they're, and that's not a best case scenario. Clearly, like, we don't want that to happen. But if the change controller, the original change controller, is pushing back for any reason and the other community disagrees with them, they can choose to come up with a different
yeah, I suppose we can always do application/foo1 plus buzz. And,
yeah.
Okay, fine.
Speaking as chair, if you have that kind of conflict, I don't think we want to register the type. Just because that's not something that we can resolve at the expert review and IANA level. We might put in a paragraph saying that in case of conflict, you can escalate to ISG, but no, experts shouldn't be put in a position of taking a position. And Daryl Miller.
Yeah, pretty much just a +1 that I'm okay with these words. My concern was people adding formats that change underlying semantics, and I think it's going to have to be a collaboration between the change control and the designated expert to make sure things like that don't happen. So I'm good with the words here from the perspective of the designated expert.
Jonathan?
Yeah, Jonathan Lennox. I mean, I'm not quite clear. Like, who do you contact for plus XML? The W3C?
It's not plus XML. It's what comes before the XML.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So the left-hand side of the plus, not
Oh,
not
okay.
the right-hand
So it's
side.
not. It's not. This isn't the extended suffixes. This is the. Okay. Never mind. I'm sorry.
All right. Next three items. There was a desire to clarify the processing order of multiple structured suffixes. I believe Ori raised this, that we weren't as clear as we could be. We selected left to right processing. So this is when you have multiple structured suffixes, in what order do you process them? We're just asserting left to right, most specific to least specific. We skip structured suffixes that are not registered. There are some combinations of structured suffixes that might not be registered. I'll give an example here of that in a little bit. And if you're processing multiple suffixes, if your processor chooses to process multiple suffixes, we're saying you should stop processing on an encode or decode error. Like if you hit a problem, don't keep processing it with a more generalized thing. Just stop. Well, we say should instead of must, because there may be some cases where someone might want to do that.
Hey,
Ori?
Ori Steele. I read the latest version. I think the language you added is excellent. Thank you.
Okay, good. All right, next item. This one's, we might want to pay a bit of attention to this one. Allow registration of media types without all suffixes registered. We have a real case coming up where we are probably, I don't know, Ori, tell me if this is right or not, but we're probably going to register something like application / VC plus LD plus JSON plus JOT or something plus cozy or something's going to go on the end of this. And before, the text basically said you needed to register the plus LD plus JSON plus JOT and the plus JSON plus JOT structured suffixes before the entire media type registration was going to happen. There may be combinations of structured suffixes on their own that don't make sense or that would put a lot of burden on the registrant. The current spec basically says that you don't have to register every single combination of these structured suffixes to register your media type. It is possible for there to be a structured suffix where it's like it's not registered and there are no processing rules with it, and so there are no processing instructions associated with it. Let me pause there to see if people have any concern about that. I think that's the best we can do without creating a huge burden on people registering structured suffixes.
I'm sorry, Alexei Malenkov. I'm sorry I haven't read the latest version. This sounds awful. What's the point of having the suffix registry if you have stuff there which is not describable and not registered?
The point here is that we do, this is a registration that's coming down the pipeline. And the question is, do we want to make that registrant go out and write a specification that they probably don't want to go out and write, like plus LD plus JSON plus JOT and plus JSON plus JOT, especially because plus JSON plus JOT is kind of just a plus JOT, right? So what we're basically saying here is that if you hit a suffix, and it's the same is true today, if you hit a suffix that's not in the suffixes registry, then you don't process it. There are no rules associated with it. Let me stop there. I see there's a queue.
I don't know. Just say no.
So you forgot to join the queue, and so I'm interrupting you. In some ways, this rather silly, to my mind, even people want it. Media type should really have been VC plus LD dash JSON dash JWT because the intermediate levels don't make sense. But I mean, what's the use in trying to make other people behave when it really doesn't matter? I don't know. Oh, Alexei is on the queue. But let's go ahead, Mark.
So Manu, I remember the discussion that led to this, but earlier you said that we've changed things so that you identify, you process from left to right. So in this case, you would try to process this as an application VCLD, lots of acronyms. Are you sure there's not a registered trademark symbol allowed in here somewhere? JSON, JWT. And if that doesn't work, you can process it as an LD, JSON, JWT. But if those aren't registered, what does that mean?
It's a good question. I think the challenge that we have right now is the W3C verifiable credential working groups. Core media type is application / VC plus LD plus JSON. Full stop. Like that's the thing. That's the whole media type, which you can also, cut off the application VC and process as plus LD plus JSON, or you can process as plus JSON. Like those are legitimate ways that you would deconstruct this and potentially process it. The issue comes up when you then use JOTS to secure it or use CWT to secure it, and then the question is like, what exactly does the media type become? And that's the question in front of the group, right? Is do we well, yeah, that's the general question in front of the group, is what do we do there? Do we it seems like the logic would be you would just add a plus and then your structured suffix to the end of it if it fits. Here's an instance of where it seems to fit. And you could make the whole thing like all hang together if you told the registrant, well, you need to go and register the plus LD plus JSON plus JOT suffix and write a spec for it. And you also need to go write a spec for the plus JSON plus JOT suffix and do that. But then it's like, the question that Harold raised, it's like, why are we making people go to all that trouble when we don't know if people are going to want to do that?
Well, but we shouldn't be responding to, well, we think people want to do something. I don't think that's the purpose of this work. I hope it's not the purpose of this work. I think we have roughly three options. One is that we require all suffixes as they appear to be registered. The other is that if a suffix isn't registered, it's not to be processed. And the third is YOLO. And if it's the third, then we're not really providing interoperability.
Can you I don't know what you mean by YOLO. I got the second one. I think the second one is what we're presenting here. I don't know what YOLO is.
You only live once.
No. I know what YOLO means. I'm saying what processing rules go along with YOLO.
Rapid hand waving.
Okay, so I don't think we're suggesting that. I think we're suggesting two here, and I don't know what the group feels about that.
Jonathan Lennox, my concern is what happens if somebody comes along later and says, I want to register plus LD plus JSON plus JOT. Do they have to get permission from this media type? Does it change what this media type means?
It's an excellent question. I don't know if we're going to be able to answer every single one of these corner cases.
So I think this has to be regarded as an open issue that we don't seem to have a consensus on at this point in time. We could do a poll to see who likes it or not, but I don't think it's clear enough.
Sorry, is that your plosives or is that Manu banging his head on the mic, or is there
It appears that if I scratch my feet against the floor and then touch the mic, it bangs. I will try not to touch it. Ori.
All right, Ori Steele. So I think some version of what Mark said is admit that reality exists and we seem to be in it. I guess the one comment I would make about plus JWT in particular is that the JWT BCP exists. It makes these recommendations to use more specific media types. There's security considerations associated with the idea of recommending more specific media types. And media types show up in several places in HOSI and COSI. They show up as the content type of payloads in HOSI. They show up as the token type of the entire envelope in HOSI. There's a symmetry of that in COSI. And then there's the COSI concept of content formats, which add to this parameters. So if you're interested in all of the other places that this may touch in the future, those are the places you should look to read more. Sorry, that's not more helpful. I'm just sort of elaborating on the space or the connection points that I've experienced with respect to this work. And then, final comment is I think if it hasn't been shared on the list already, we should share the draft registration requests from W3C to IANA for these particular requested registrations so that folks within this group can take another look, because they have changed and they have updated since the last IETF. That's it.
Just to clarify, from listening to you, trying to be loud enough so that I can hear me. My takeaway from that is that this is potentially dangerous. Like, it matters. Is that kind of?
Well, there's been good. So I'm going to repeat the question for anyone who's remote. Mark essentially asked, this seems to matter a lot. It could be potentially dangerous. I think media types, when not processed correctly, can lead to challenges. In particular, when you have content and you're attempting to deserialize it because of some hint you got from a media type, it could, and Manu has added language in the latest version that does address some of those details. So I encourage folks to read the latest version, because I gave feedback on the list. I think he did his best to address it. And the concrete place that we were seeing this come up, like specifically VC plus LD plus JSON, that is a requested registered media type from W3C representing digital credentials, which have a wide range of use cases, and you can consider them to be a kind of attribute certificate in some sense. So I'm happy. This is way off topic for what this is, working group is about. But if you have more questions about this, I'm here and I'm supportive of us resolving this issue, and I'm happy to answer them, in greater detail while not taking up this working group's time with the details. Thanks.
Okay, I have so many comments. Is this already being in use? That's my first question.
No.
Or can they change it? It's like,
Could be changed. It could be changed. It's not in use. It hasn't been registered.
Okay. I mean, the obvious fix is, replace various pluses with dashes and just be done with it.
Yeah, no, because this group gave us very clear when JSON LD was first created, this group was very clear about it needs to be plus LD plus JSON, right? And because of that, then it kicked off this whole suffixes thing, right? And so the way you can solve this problem is just add dashes and just be super specific about the media type. But it's clear that people are not doing that in the registries today. They're adding a whole bunch of plus suffixes to media types. I guess the question is, where would you want to add a dash here? Sorry, there are two ways to solve this problem. One of them is add a dash. The other one is require full suffixes registrations. So, or make it so that it's fine to ignore suffixes that don't exist in the registry.
I mean, registering plus JSON plus JWT is much easier task, right? And people
you need a spec to define what that is.
People probably can help with this.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so again, I'm trying to not make Ori's life a hell for the next 6 to 8 months, because he's the one that probably is going to have to go and define this stuff. If we say that you have to register all the suffixes, I can't see Ori's face. He's probably sad right now. He is probably going to be.
It's all your fault, or
no, it's not Ori's fault. I'm trying to, it's like. This is a thing that exists now because we're entertaining multiple suffixes.
So I'm closing the queue in the interest of getting to the last points. So continue. Alexei, and no, Alexei and Ori are next speakers.
Okay, so my other, my other part of the brain is like, what if instead of plus VC plus LD, it was another slash instead of plus? This is syntactic error. Treat it as a syntactic error according to the current document. Reject. I'm not being very helpful here, but I'm enjoying it just for a second.
That was something that we had a huge discussion about in 1991.
I honestly think if this is to be registered, that we should proper register the suffixes, and maybe people can help. And if we cannot produce a description that actually works, that's a good reason not to register in the first place.
So, or Steele. So for the specific example that you can see on the slide here, application VC plus LD plus JSON plus JOT, trivial solution within the W3C, just replace all the plus signs with dashes and make that except for the last one, and make that the registration request from the W3C. That would work for one of the documents of which I am an editor, and Manu is correct that this is causing pain. The other document, however, will still have VC plus LD plus JSON. And so even without the plus JWT, there would still need to be some resolution for that document. And that document could take the same approach, but then that would violate the guidance for JSON LD, as I understand it. I was not here at the time at which the plus LD plus JSON dialogue had happened, so apologies for not having that context. Happy to make whatever changes to whatever documents I need to make changes to within the W3C. Thanks.
I think we have to continue this discussion online and in person. So hopefully we can resolve this, because it's one outstanding issue. Manu, are you done with the presentation now?
There were final editorial updates made across the whole spec. There are no remaining issues except for this thing. Anything else? Question to the group is there anything else that's not on the issue tracker? We've got, multiple people reviewed it. Not as many reviewed this version as previous versions. So more review would be nice. And then there's a question on working group last call. That's it.
So I think we have to resolve this one issue before we can go to working group last call. But do we see any other blockers?
I need to review the document. It was just published. I need to look at it.
I mean, nobody can have a real finished opinion on something that came out yesterday. But at the moment, we don't know of any other blockers. We have to resolve the register all suffixes, or register or allow jumps. And yep, I think we're done with this one. And back to my share slides. That says that it's, I think it says that it's Mark's turn.
I didn't give any slides.
No? That's what I... Community, yeah, you just get to talk. You have a draft.
Yeah, we have a draft. It was adopted. We had a lot of discussion before and not much since. I haven't had much feedback. I think people are reasonably happy with it. I know that there are some editorial, when we integrate it into the master revision, we're going to have to, figure out where little bits go and stuff like that. But overall.
So do you think we should publish this as a standalone RFC?
I was hoping that we would go to working group last call, and then we have the main, revision of RFC, whatever the hell it
Yeah.
is. And
So you don't see any big hurry in switching to this
well,
process?
if I recall, so this came up in HTTP API today. As I recall, last time we had this discussion, we thought that we could squint just right and see a loophole where someone could do a community registration before this was an RFC if they needed to. And so if there's a burning need to, we could try that. I don't think that, like HTTP API is going to go ahead and publish its RFCs. You use the traditional route. So in that sense, I think, yeah, we can wait as long as this revision of the main document doesn't take, years. But maybe that's something that the working group should discuss as to what the parameters of that are. And if it's really just open it up, shove these couple other documents into it and shut it back down with maybe a light editorial pass, then that should be fine.
Yeah, we would hope so.
I would really hope so, yeah. Sorry, I should probably stay here.
Yeah. So I have read the document. I'm reasonably happy with this one. So any other comments to content?
Clarifying question.
Use the mic.
Sure. So are you suggesting that we park the document, or are you suggesting with the working group last call, agree that it's stable, but just don't publish, don't send it to SG? Is that what?
Because we're going to do that revision of the main document instead and incorporate it into that rather than publishing a separate RFC that updates the current one. I mean, I guess we could publish it as an RFC that updates the current one and then publish the revision of the main document that obsoletes this one and the previous one, but that seems needlessly elaborate if you ask me.
Yeah.
What I might suggest while I was standing there thinking,
case where it matters, we can just choose to do that.
what we might do is because I mean this is a little bit speculative. We're setting up a relatively new process that has a bunch of criteria, and it might be that we might benefit from running it a little bit before we bake it into RFC. And so if we could get a little license from the ISG to say, yes, you have a little bit of workaround, let's put this in place and see what happens. That might give us information to be more confident when we finally get to that RFC.
Yep. So that sounds like we make a working group last call on this one after suitable time has passed for raising issues, and then we ask the ISG whether that's a possible procedure.
I think that's a reasonable experiment to run. I would happily put it forward. The history of why we do that community registration, or sorry, the SDO registration thing has been interesting because there's two things there. I didn't know why we did that for a long time and finally found out. And then the other part is there's no criteria anywhere for what do we consider an SDO. Right. So
No, there is. There's a list.
there's a list, but
There's
what
not a criteria
to get right. So that's kind of like IESG.
Criteria is the ISG telling you.
So tidying up that space that's a nice idea.
To be clear, this draft does not address that problem.
No, but it's a step in the right direction, I think. Got it.
Yep. So okay, we have a plan. Now I have a blank slide saying wrap up, action items, follow up. So my understanding is that we have a set of fixes to top level. Everyone's encouraged to review and send in at least a note to the list saying, I reviewed this and found it good, or I reviewed this and I think you should fix these 5 points before submitting. And then we hand it back to the ISG and says, can you please approve this now? For the plus sign, we have to settle the issue of whether we can skip levels in the registration, and we'll take that one to the list and on GitHub, and I hope we can resolve it before very long, and definitely before the next meeting. And for the last one, the plan is to go for let some time pass and go for a working group last call and a request for an experiment from the ISG. Okay. With that, I think we're done.
Can I just add a question back to the community formats?
Yeah.
We recently had a request to register a media type for the mermaid diagramming format. And it was requested under VND.mermaid. And I suddenly thought, I wonder if this makes sense for community formats. But there is a note that says the specification is not tied or heavily associated with one implementation. So I just want confirmation that even though the implementation is an open source community run project, this community specification is not intended for those kind of efforts because it is currently a single implementation. That doesn't mean that it couldn't have other implementations because it's open source.
Well, that's a fascinating example because the currently written spec does give the expert the discretion to ignore some of the criteria in exceptional circumstances. And mermaid diagrams, as I understand it, yes, there's one implementation there, but I think that there are other implementations that kind of, it may not be that the specification is under control of other implementations, but you'd have to do some research, I think.
Okay. So there's wiggle room.
Oh yeah, there is wiggle room. Do we have the right amount of wiggle room? Who knows?
Let's wiggle.
Thank you.
Okay. With that one, I give you. Oh, Jonathan wants to take up the remaining 8 minutes.
Yes. So this is Jonathan Lennox. This is an issue that came up in the AVT core group. I don't know how familiar people are with RTP payload formats, but they are also registered in the media types tree, which might have been a poor decision, but it was a decision made a while ago. And there's also supposed to be another IANA registry, which also registers. This one is also available as an RTP payload format, but those have been fairly poorly maintained.
Oh.
So we're trying to figure out what we want to do about that. And I feel like, since this is, one possibility is to, abandon the RTP payload formats registry because people aren't maintaining it. Apparently nobody cares. But then do we want to add a flag in the media types registry that says this is also an RTP payload format, which might be more than we want to do. So I don't know if anybody has paid attention to this. You can find the emails on the AVT core or AVT at IETF history. I bet Harold has actually paid attention to that. I don't know if anyone else here has.
So,
at least seen it. I don't know, paid attention to it.
I'm painfully aware of this.
Okay, so all right, because you were I think you were the person who actually, in your day job, discovered this is a problem. Yes.
No, I think it was my co-chair, Bernarda Boba, who discovered that some of the most important video types somehow weren't registered, and we could either register them or declare that registration closed.
I guess the question, we probably need to raise this in AVT, obviously, but do people think that, how upset would people be here about adding a flag to the main media type registry saying this is an RTP payload format? Okay.
I will just give you an example. In another email working groups, we're trying to add a flag to header fields registry, which is email specific. So I think it's okay. Basically, I got you scared for a moment, didn't I? Yeah. No, I don't think. I know it's kind of a bit awkward to have flags specific to kind of subset of registrations, but I think it's okay. We're kind of crossing this bridge now. So. I don't. No. Yeah, I don't think that is my least preferred way.
So there's There's some interesting inconsistencies between those two registration procedures too. I mean, among other things, the 4855 says that the change controller is always the AVT core working group. Which seems a bit odd, especially when you're registering vendor types, of which we have none. No.
Yeah, Jonathan, even though many RTP payload formats are things that would be, I think, pretty clearly vendor types, we've never registered a vendor type in RTP payload formats.
So
I mean,
I discovered where I filed a bug for this one.
yeah. So basically, people come to AVT core saying, I want an RTP payload format for my proprietary codec, and we say, sure, we will just give it whatever name you want, and it never has a vendor type on it.
Well, we have seen certain times when the procedure is slightly more difficult than that.
Oh, sure.
Like taking a couple of years. Okay. So that one, I just projected the bug. Please comment on the bug. It's there. Anyway, now I can try again. With 4 minutes remaining, let's declare this meeting closed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ori? Why on earth is JVT support supposed to go on the end of the...
Yeah.
I'd love to hear the answer to this.
I mean, if it's JSON formatted, you kind of want JSON to go at the end, so anything that wants to be JSON.
That's true, but it's not JSON.
It's not JSON.
So in HOSI protected header, there are two places where a content type can be discovered. The first is called the CTY, the content type of the payload. It's pretty normal.